I think we're at 140 at the end of this year. I mean, we kind of built a very nice base around the 50, 58 area. Well, the absolute bottom of the last correction off of FTX was 15,000. And, it tends to very often go up kind of 10x off its base. And so that would put us at 150, 150,000 per coin. We also kind of went up from 58, we went up to 106, came back into the low 90s, mid 90s, and we formed a flag there, in my view, a technical term for that. And then the next leg up, I think, takes you to 146, 150 kind of this year. I think another big print is coming. And we've already had two big prints. We had one in '08 and we had one in 2020. And I think the math suggests that they're going to have to do another one, and it's going to be bigger. And so, currencies fail and inflation occurs when the mass of people come to realize, you know what? This system is set up so that they can never stop printing.
For thousands of years, every form of money we've used has been dilutable, whether it's through minting more coins, printing more notes, or discovering new gold, even gold. The hardest form of money we've known still experiences gradual dilution through mining. Over the next 50 years, the total amount of gold on Earth could double. It's slow, but it's still dilution. Now, Bitcoin is something radically different, a truly finite asset. This makes it unlike anything we've seen before in the world of money. If you're finding value in this content, make sure to like this video if you're excited about Bitcoin's potential. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into cryptocurrencies and the digital asset space. Turn on post notifications so you never miss an update. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about Bitcoin and the future of money? Your support helps grow the community and brings even more valuable content your way. Thanks for watching. Let's dive deeper into this exciting journey together.
For thousands and thousands of years, every form of money has been dilutable, which is to say that it can be printed or even more of it can be found. And, before Bitcoin came along, the one form of money that was mildly dilutable was gold. The supply of gold grows every year as we mine more. So, in 50 years, the amount of gold on the planet will double. But having said that, most systems, and we're not even on a gold standard today, we're on fiat standards, and fiat is just continually being diluted. And the fact that there's a 21 million unit hard cap on Bitcoin, we now have a form of money with zero dilution. That's a completely different world than the world that we lived in pre-Bitcoin. I mean, it's like, I try and compare it to, ancients, if ancients saw an airplane flying today, they'd say, how is that possible? What is that? It's just a technological innovation that did not exist. There was no way, we've never had a perfectly inelastic commodity, which is to say something where if the price goes up, the supply doesn't change. I can guarantee you if the price of gold goes much, much higher, we're going to mine a lot more gold. But if the price of Bitcoin goes to $1 million, there's still the same amount of Bitcoin. And therefore, that's what led Michael to make his statement, which I just love, which it's going up forever, Laura. And people have to kind of get their head around that. And it's hard to get your head around it. It really is. I know a lot of people who bought it, made money on it, and say, oh gosh, it's got to be near a peak, I'm selling it. and it's one of those assets you just don't sell, in my view. I think we're at 140 at the end of this year. I mean, we kind of built a very nice base around the 50, 58 area. Well, the absolute bottom of the last correction off of FTX was 15,000. And, it tends to very often go up kind of 10x off its base. And so that would put us at 150, 150,000 per coin. We also kind of went up from 58, we went up to 106, came back into the low 90s, mid 90s, and we formed a flag there, in my view, a technical term for that. And then the next leg up, I think, takes you to 146, 150 kind of this year. It's just a guess. I mean, I don't know, but I'm fairly confident that we'll get there. One of the things that will determine where it goes in the next year or two is the behavior of the government and the Federal Reserve. I mean, the book is called The Big Print, and that's because I think another big print is coming. And we've already had two big prints. We had one in '08 and we had one in 2020. And I think the math suggests that they're going to have to do another one, and it's going to be bigger. And so, currencies fail and inflation occurs when the mass of people come to realize, you know what, this system is set up so that they can never stop printing. And as I had a great pod with a guy the other day who grew up in Argentina, and he said, we saw our currency failing in 1990, and my parents would get paid. They'd rush to the grocery store to buy food because they knew a week later it would be more expensive. And that's what a currency failure looks like. We're not there yet, but we're behaving in ways that suggest that we're trending there. And what the policies they pursue, that'll determine what happens. I could see it anywhere between, I think Michael's number is 13 million a coin. I see it anywhere between 5 million and 25 million a coin. I mean,
5 years from now.
yeah, million per coin. My view is that what will happen is ultimately I think my kids and certainly my grandkids, your kids and grandkids will price things in Satoshis. As for your listeners, a Satoshi is the smallest unit within a Bitcoin. Each one Bitcoin is worth 100 million Satoshis. So, and Satoshi isn't even worth a penny right now, but it's, that will change. And, I think these other currencies are going to fail. I think it's inevitable. I mean, Safe says it best. It's, when gunpowder came along, fighting with sticks and knives and swords didn't make sense anymore. And it's just a better form of money. I think it's going to replace, and by 2030, it's definitely going to replace all the others. Now, between here and there are going to be volatile periods up and down. It's got all the things related to it. And I actually think there's an accelerator at some point, that the pattern gets recognized by more and more people. And I've kind of alluded to it as being like a fire in a theater. Some people smell the smoke, and that's us. And we got out and we bought Bitcoin. Everyone else isn't aware there's smoke yet. But eventually, a lot of people become aware quickly. And you're actually seeing the beginnings of this in the acceleration in the price of gold. I mean, I'm a gold guy too. I'm a Bitcoiner through and through, and Bitcoin's better than gold, but I still believe in gold. It's analog sound money. And what gold is telling us right now is, this fire, the smoke is getting more intense, right? I mean, gold is up 60% in the past year. It very rarely has done that, very rarely. And so to me, that's the beginning of kind of an alarm. And so to answer your question of does it just gradually burn forever? No, I think we kind of accelerate into a period where it really gets pretty bad and we get really high inflation and people realize there's a crisis. And what I hope is that we have enlightened enough leaders to do a currency reset and say we're going to a sound money standard. Because if we were to go all the way to hyperinflation, if you study those, that's really ugly. It tears a society apart.
Meanwhile, ordinary Americans are burdened with 25% interest rates on credit card debt, while the elite gets zero-interest loans backed by the government. Lepard highlights a troubling reality. We once had usury laws to prevent this kind of financial abuse. But now, the system has become predatory. He believes that most Americans aren't looking for handouts, they just want a fair chance. But they can see the system is rigged and they're rightfully angry. From the opioid crisis to the decline of the middle class, the offshoring of jobs, and the rise of financialization. These are all symptoms of a much deeper problem, a broken monetary system. Let's watch more clips from the interview.
I think the principal documents of this country, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, are probably the greatest political documents that ever have been written by anybody. And I think the only thing that's wrong with this country is that we've strayed from the principles that are in those documents. And I would suggest that the biggest, straying is, it was the system was meant to be set up to be fair for everybody. I think all Americans, nobody in America well, that's not true. Most Americans do not want handouts. Most Americans, all they want is a fair deal and a fair shake. I mean, we are a smart and aggressive, hardworking people in general, but we recognize unfairness when it exists. And sadly, the people in power and a lot of other folks have figured out ways to, make the system unfair. And we've got to return. And the monetary system is a perfect example of that. And the book lays out case after case of that. I mean, there's so many great, for instances. I apologize, somebody's outside blowing leaves off my lawn, but there's so many instances of it. I mean, one of the great ones, I don't know if you were able to read this anecdote, was in 2008, the chairman of one of the big investment banks' wife was able to borrow $220 million from the Federal Reserve, non-recourse, at 0% interest. Now, think about that. The average American, if they want to borrow money, they have to pay a credit card company 25%. And that's unfair in and of itself. I mean, we used to have usury laws where, the max rate on credit cards was, 10 or 11%. And, admittedly, some people couldn't get credit, fine. But, 25%, the mob would blush. So I think the idea of America is a fair system. And I know that my view of government is I don't want really government to do anything except enforce the laws and have courts and have jails. I want psychopaths and criminals and bad people to suffer for their behavior. But other than that, leave me alone. All the other stuff they do, I don't need it. I'm just not interested in it. I say fiat currency printed by the Federal Reserve and the government to benefit them and hurt the rest of us.
Right. And and it's interesting. So I'm going to add a sentence there and see what you say to it. I would say, in addition to that, it has hurt living standards around the United States for
Oh,
lower and middle
absolutely.
income.
It's absolutely gutted the middle class. And part of the reason I wrote this book was, and we're similar in age. I remember what this country used to be in the 60s and 70s and 80s. It was a much better country.
Right.
And I've watched people suffer as we, financialized and offshored all our industry. And it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, all the fentanyl and all the opioid crisis, et cetera. I mean, so many things have gone wrong. And, you and I, we've been, fairly financially comfortable because we've done well. But boy, half this country hasn't had that experience. Half this country has really gotten punched in the face for 20 years. And it's just wrong. I mean, and it's because the system is broken. It's because we're violating the principles in those founding documents. And the way to fix it, this is the part that's the reason I wrote the book. Most people don't understand that it's the monetary system that's doing it. You see these people. I mean, last year, I was watching a red-blue debate, and they were yelling at each other about all kinds of stuff that didn't matter. And I said to myself, these guys are arguing about the color of the drapes and the friggin' house is burning down because of the money system. So it was just
Crazy.
like, we got to fix the money, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. I say the words, I say the word inflation. You say what?
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. We do not need inflation. Keynesians would tell you need inflation, you need 2% inflation. And if you don't have 2% inflation, you risk falling into a depression and, everything goes wrong. And that's just a complete and total lie. Because between 1789 and 1913, inflation, with the exception of wars, which you pointed out, and there's a good chart in the book that shows how each war created inflation. But if you didn't have wars, there was no inflation in that time frame. And the country did. I mean, it's not as if our living standards didn't advance enormously between 1789 and 1913. They did.
This, he says, is why he wrote his book The Big Print, not just to talk about Bitcoin, but to sound the alarm on something bigger, saving the country. Most people, he argues, are caught up in endless, partisan noise, while the real crisis, the collapse of our financial foundation, rages on in the background. Inflation isn't necessary, he insists. The popular Keynesian belief that 2% inflation is healthy? In his words, a lie. From 1789 to 1913, inflation in the U.S. was virtually zero except during wars, and yet the nation experienced unprecedented economic growth. So why do we blindly accept inflation today? Because we've been conditioned to by those who profit from it. If this message hits home, do your part to fight financial ignorance. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications for more uncensored insights on money, policy, and power. Drop a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts on inflation, Bitcoin, and what real change looks like. Watch our other videos to dig deeper into the hidden forces shaping our economy. Thanks for being here. The system isn't going to fix itself, but we can start by understanding it. See you on next video.